course, they're not called crumpets everywhere.
Are they not?
Oh. Hello and welcome to Afternoon Tea from Bookends. I'm Anita.
And I'm Gerald. And this week, I thought we would talk about rejection. It don't look like that.
The reason I look like that is because last time or earlier we talked about the psychological aspects of marketing and selling, buying and things. I think with rejection, there's a massive psychological thing.
Yes.
And every author responds very differently to it. So it's a good topic.
I think so.
Good thing to talk about.
And I think there's two sort of areas I'd like to cover today if we can. One is the effect of rejection on the author.
Yep.
Which obviously affects different people in different ways.
Yep.
And the second is about how to avoid rejection.
Okay.
If at all possible.
If at all possible. And we're talking about rejection of an author's manuscript before it's published, rather than people just not buying it, that kind of rejection of nobody's buying my book rejection.
There is that, we can cover that in the first part.
Okay.
But in the second part, it's about, making your submission less easily rejected.
Right. So to kick off with, we've got how to deal with rejection as an author.
Yes.
And I don't think there's an author on the planet who hasn't had to deal with this. Or an artist, come to think of it. Dancers and actors go to auditions all the time. Don't get every part they go for. Yeah.
Quite often you are an individual person. So if you're writing a book, it's you that has made this book. As a dancer, you are the person trying to sell yourself.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite difficult to avoid seeing not achieving what you want to achieve as anything other than a rejection of you personally.
So in football we have a term which is play the ball, not the man. And or woman. And they're actually talking about, so in terms of being an author, they're rejecting your manuscript, not you.
Yeah.
I think that's a very sensible approach to have, but it's a very hard one to have.
It is, and sorry.
If you're new to being an artist of any sort, for a lot of authors, they've never had to face anything like this. Those of us who grew up in the world of theatre and various other art forms and film, where you put it out there and people then give you feedback, for better or for worse.
Yes.
You kind of build a resilience towards it.
Yeah.
It's always difficult, but you get more resilient. Whereas if it's never happened to you before, and I think this is a main reason why a lot of authors don't finish work.
Yes.
Don't actually ever finish something, because then they'll have to, do something with it and risk that feedback. Yeah,
and one of the first lessons I learned, because I started writing short fiction, short literary fiction, and in the group where I was a member, we were instructed very early on to critique the writing, not criticise the author. And I think that's a key thing to remember. And it's quite hard to say this piece of writing doesn't work and differentiate that from you're no good at writing.
Absolutely.
Quite often in life we are rejected as part of a group. So if we play a team game, for instance, and we lose the game, we lose the game as a team, as a group. And you think, oh dear, we lost it, for various reasons. So it's a bit of a shame. But author, dancer,
actor,
musician, you are on your own.
Yeah.
And it's and especially when you've produced something that you put a lot of work into and a lot of hours into, that rejection is very difficult. That first rejection is very hard. And I think you can sometimes normalise it by saying, well, everyone gets rejected, so I'll submit it again and I'll submit it again. And 5 rejections, 10 rejections, quite often there is an effect on the author.
there's a very big effect on the author, I think. And yeah, I think we're coming on to why do you get so many rejections and how you can avoid them. But it's very personal, isn't it? It is personal at that point. It's like, what do I have to do to get my book accepted? Why is nobody liking what I've done? And
it's worth remembering, there's lists of authors who have been rejected, and Harry Potter was rejected 18, 20 times or something.
The number varies, the effect's the same.
The effect's the same. So you can look at these lists online, and you can find out how many times certain pieces of work were rejected, and it's sort of the difference. This is a quote by someone. They say the difference between a professional author and amateur is that a professional is an amateur that didn't give up.
Yeah, there is that.
And you, so in some respects you have to keep going, you have to keep working, you have to keep submitting, but also you then have to look at why was your piece rejected.
So a definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. If you keep getting rejected, there's a reason for that. I think before we get to that, though, there's this thing about the individual and how individuals cope with rejection.
Okay.
And some people are more resilient to it than others. Some people can quite happily say, it's the work, it's not me personally. I think for people who do take it personally, who are sensitive, and most artists are quite sensitive people, I think it's a really, I think it's the harshest lesson one has to learn.
Right.
Being a writer or being any sort of creative. And what happened with me initially was you get quite defensive about your work.
Okay.
And you know that it's good, but you get very defensive, and you're at risk of then just barricading yourself in.
Okay.
And not hearing what's being said to you.
Yes.
I think that's a danger.
Yeah. One of the key things for us is that we're part of a novel critiquing group.
Yes.
And it's so rare, but it's so good. And the group's been together now for a number of years. I'm sure we've mentioned it before. And we have learned to accept the critique from other members of the group. And sometimes you think it's valid. Sometimes you think, no, they don't know what they're talking about.
Or I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with it.
That's the other thing, is knowing, is being on strong ground, knowing when you think some feedback you get is good, and when you think, and the thing about, so that's feedback on a manuscript, but getting rejection from either a publishing house, but more often it's an agent, because they're the gatekeepers to the publishing houses. It could just be that it's not for them. They just don't like that sort of thing. They think the idea is not quite strong enough, or it's not something they're interested in.
Yeah, or they've already got something by another author that's very similar, that's already in the pipeline. So there's a lot of reasons why a manuscript can be rejected, and it's so I think an understanding of that is worthwhile getting if you can. Sometimes they don't give feedback. Sometimes they just give a form letter and reply just to say, not for us, thank you very much. Sometimes they don't reply at all.
Yes,
that's nice. But if you can get feedback from an agent, to say, and be open to it, and be open to the feedback, and be open, how can I make this better? How can I make my submission better? And sometimes it's the synopsis which is wrong. Sometimes it's the whole idea behind the book that's wrong.
I think there's a lot of resources online on how to write a perfect pitch letter.
Yes. Or
a good pitch letter. How to research your agents in the first place that you're sending it to.
Yeah.
Do they take the kind of work you like? Who else have they got on their books? Are they going to be representing the sort of work that you create?
Yes.
There's all of that. The pitch letter, the synopsis, how to write a good synopsis, and what to include in your synopsis. These are all really important skills to gain, just as important as learning how to write a great story.
Yeah.
It's yet more learning that, but the information is so available.
Yes.
So out there.
Yeah.
The thing I find interesting is that even if you do manage to land an agent, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to sell your book. That's just phase one. And then phase two with a publisher is, their main concern is whether they're going to make money out of it.
Yeah.
So the agent's concern is this publishable? Do I know a publisher who will take this kind of work? Publisher's thing is all about,
yes.
Can I make money out of it? Is the book marketable? Is the writer marketable? Can I pitch this to the whole team?
Yes.
The whole editorial team and get them to buy in? Can I get buy-in from the top? Will the marketing team accept this and believe they can sell it? What's the hook? So I think there's so many layers involved in this.
Yeah, you don't have to just have to sell to one person. You have to sell it to a whole group of people. And the bottom line is, as soon as you submit your manuscript, it's then all about publishing. It's all about sales. It's all about marketing. So,
well, the editorial, whether or not the editor feels they can work with you as well, because they will want to make changes.
Okay.
As well, that's the other thing, that they will almost, if someone accepts your book for publication, they will almost definitely want to make changes. And again, they need to know, and this is kind of where the agent is the go-between. And they'll know the agent quite well, and whether or not the agent feels that you're able to work with them in a creative way which will make the product better. So the other thing I wanted to say about getting an agent and getting published is, it's just to a large extent, a lot of it is outside of your control.
yes.
Writing a book is very much in your control. What you write, how you write it, what sort of book you write, etc., is very much in your control. But then you have to let it go. And we've talked about this before, haven't we? At what point do you let it go? When is it ready to let go? And for so many people, when you've put that much effort into creating something, it's quite hard to just let it go. And you're very protective of it. Inevitably, you're quite protective. And you want to kind of make sure it's okay out there in the world. So if somebody comes back and says, your baby's really ugly, it really hurts here, doesn't it? It does get to you.
Yeah.
And however many times that happens, you do begin to doubt yourself.
Yeah.
You begin to believe you can't write. Some people at that point, many people give up. And it can really knock your belief.
Well, there's this thing about if your book's accepted for publication, and if the rights are then sold to TV or film or anything, and sometimes people ask, well, what would you think about someone taking your manuscript, your book, and mangling it to make a film or a TV program about it?
Not necessarily always mangle it, but
Well, they might. They could do.
Adapting it.
I
feel good. I don't feel bad about that, because I know, having been a filmmaker and having worked on stage, that there's a big difference between two different platforms. In fact, it's what I'm writing my blog post about this week, about the different platforms and how the translation between the two has to happen through the various skills that those people bring to it.
Yeah.
So you can say that depends on who the director is, depends on who the screenwriter is. If they know what they're doing, I would trust them. A lot of times, though, what happens is if you've written a book that has a lot of layers, they will take the story.
Yes.
And then the layers are easily interpreted differently by a creative team.
Okay.
So they might make it more darker than you intended, or they might make it light and breezy, and that's not what you intended. So I think those are the challenges. And they might change the ending. This has happened as well.
Yeah. But to be honest, I think if someone pays you money to take your idea and your book and turn it into something else, to me, because I've once the thing's finished, and I refer to it as a thing, so I disconnect. Once the thing's finished, they can do with it what they want. If somebody wants to say, can I take your book and nail it to a lamppost, and I'll give you £1,000 to do that, I'd say, fantastic. Give me £1,000, and nail it to a lamppost. Because it's not that I don't care about my work. I've produced the work. It's then become a product, and it's gone out into the world as a product. So yes, my name might be on it, but I don't mind if someone wants to do something different with it.
As long as they pay you for it.
As long as they pay me for it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's different if you're emotionally attached. It's about emotional attachment, really. I think this whole discussion is about emotional attachment. It's all about how strongly you feel about the work that you've produced and how much of yourself you've invested in this product, of your true self, of going really deep down. As a storyteller, it might be less than if you're writing stories which have a lot of yourself in it.
Maybe. I don't know. I think I still have that disconnect. I think you pour your heart and soul into writing something, into creating something. I mean, would the same apply to a painter who's poured their heart and soul into a painting, then somebody wants to take it and turn it upside down?
Yeah, there are many painters who would say, no way.
Okay.
You're not doing that. No way, I'm not even going to sell it. And they would starve in a garret.
Really?
Yeah. I think a lot of artists feel like that.
Really?
I do.
Not me.
Maybe you're a wordsmith.
Is that any less than an artist?
I don't think there's a hierarchy of esteem.
Okay.
I think there
Just
are
checking.
parallel silos in which people sit. But I don't necessarily believe in a hierarchy.
Parallel analogies.
Huh?
Parallel analogies.
Yeah.
And I think, in sort of summary, I think if you're someone who can't deal with rejection, then you have to wonder, are you the right sort of person to try and be an author? Because rejection, in terms of rejecting your manuscript, in terms of people not buying it, or even if you self-publish, or in terms of 1-star reviews, those can be quite hurtful.
They can.
And I think you have to be able to deal with that. And if you can't deal with that, then I think you have to wonder, is being an author right for you?
I think if you really want to do it, you should. And I think the thing you need to learn to deal with it, you just need to learn techniques to do. It's easy to say, isn't it? Because for some people, crippling anxiety and crippling self-doubt can be huge barriers to doing anything, really. So if those are the issues that you're dealing with, then that's where you need to get the help and support.
Yeah, and also manage your expectations. And if you want to be a best-selling commercial author, you have to understand that there may be rejections, there may be stumbling blocks and stones on the path and bumps in the road and other things.
And other metaphors.
But you can still be an author, and you can still write some beautiful words and create beautiful things, poetry.
Depends how prepared you are to put stuff out there, and as soon as you raise your head above the parapet, someone will shoot at you.
Yes.
So get a tin helmet, that would be my advice.
Tin helmet.
It's true though, isn't it?
I guess.
Even on social media, if you start expressing an opinion, somebody is going to disagree with you. So the way to deal with that is only surround yourself with people who think like you and don't follow everyone else.
Yeah.
Which is great. You can write books that you just write for people who like you and who wouldn't dream of saying anything horrible or unpleasant. And a lot of reviews on Amazon, in fairness, are from friends and family who like you anyway and aren't going to say unpleasant things.
That's true.
You know, so that's, as you say, that's the expectation you have to think about, manage that.
I think you're right.
How prepared are you to stick your head above the parapet? I think it's a fact of life, and I think it's something you need to think about, plan for, manage your expectations. However, having said that, You shouldn't plan to be rejected. Because if you plan to be rejected, you're not going to... it's going to be a bit demoralising, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think... Does anyone plan to be rejected? I don't think anyone would plan
Well, you put something out kind of half-heartedly and say, well, no, it's not much good, but just have a look and tell me what you think. I've heard people say that.
Have you?
Yes. I work a lot with beginner writers. And people turn up at my workshops who are very insecure, very unsure, no confidence, very little self-esteem.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do that. I didn't have a good education. Oh, I'm not very good, but I'm trying, you know, I really, really want to write my life story, but I can't write very well.
Okay.
We know people like that.
We do. Yes.
So,
yeah.
So yeah, and I would always say, write by all means. Write whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. Publishing is a very different thing.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a whole leap across a chasm with a tin helmet. Just saying.
Just saying. Right, I'm gonna put an end to this now.
So, just saying. Thank you for watching this video. Please click the button below. Give us a thumbs up if you like it.
And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. And if you do subscribe, please click the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know by email when we have a new video out. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Did you just read that off the card?
What card?
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Of course, they're not called crumpets everywhere.
Are they not?
Oh. When I was in Hull, they were called pikelets.
I remember pikelets. We used to call them pikelets at home.
Must be a Yorkshire thing then.
I guess. And it's worth rejecting. I'll cut this bit.
Enough more than you can chew.
I'm not rejecting this cookie, which is chocolate and orange.
Lovely, aren't they?
Lovely.
And take what's coming. No, I don't mean that.
This is a bit scattergun. If people don't like it, then that's their problem.
Are you going to cut that?
No, because that's how we deal with rejection. Yes.
No.
If they don't like it, that's tough.